There is a store in Bend, Oregon. It has blue and yellow awnings, shelves lined with DVD cases, a checkout counter with candy and popcorn. It looks exactly like 1998, and on any given Friday night, a handful of people still walk through its doors. This is the last Blockbuster on Earth. In 2004, Blockbuster had 9,000 stores, 60,000 employees, $6 billion in revenue. It was the undisputed king of home entertainment. Today, there is one. What happened between those two numbers is not just a story about video rentals. It is a story about what happens when a company becomes too successful to see its own obsolescence. When the very thing that made you dominant becomes the anchor that drowns you. And it is a story about a small startup in Scotts Valley, California, that sent DVDs through the mail, lost $500 million learning what customers actually wanted, and became a $300 billion company while the king of entertainment filed for bankruptcy. This is how Netflix killed Blockbuster. And it was never about the DVDs. Before Netflix existed, before streaming, before Redbox, before any of it, there was Blockbuster. Founded in 1985 in Dallas, Texas, by David Cook, Blockbuster introduced something radical, a video store that was bright, clean, and family-friendly. No back rooms with adult content. No dingy lighting, just aisles and aisles of movies, organized, accessible, welcoming. Within 2 years, Waste Management founder Wayne Huizenga bought Blockbuster for $18.5 million. And he did what Huizenga did best. He scaled. By 1988, Blockbuster had 400 stores. By 1992, 2,800. By 1994, Viacom acquired Blockbuster for $8.4 billion. At its peak, a new Blockbuster opened every 17 hours. Think about that. For every hour you were awake, a new Blockbuster opened somewhere in America. This is the part of the story people forget. Blockbuster didn't stumble into dominance. It invented the category. Before Blockbuster, video rentals were a fragmented local business. Mom-and-pop shops with 200 tapes. Blockbuster brought 5,000 titles per store. They had distribution deals with every major studio. They could stock 50 copies of the latest release when independent stores could afford 3. And they had data. Blockbuster knew exactly what you watched, when you watched it, and what you would probably watch next. In 1997, Blockbuster had more customer data than any retailer in America except Walmart. They were not stupid. They were not lazy. They were the most sophisticated entertainment retailer on the planet. And that was precisely the problem. Let me tell you about the deal that should have changed everything. In the year 2000, a small company called Netflix was bleeding money. They had launched 2 years earlier with a simple idea: rent DVDs online, get them by mail, no late fees. But in 2000, the internet was slow, DVD players were still expensive, and Netflix was losing $50 million per year. So Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph flew to Dallas. They walked into Blockbuster headquarters and made an offer. They would sell Netflix to Blockbuster for $50 million. Netflix would become Blockbuster's online arm. The streaming revolution would happen under Blockbuster's roof. Blockbuster said no. Not because they didn't understand the internet, not because they were incompetent, but because they genuinely believed Netflix's model was worse than theirs. And in some ways, they were right. In 2000, mailing DVDs through the postal service was slower than driving to a store. The selection was worse. You couldn't browse, you couldn't impulse rent. Late fees were annoying, but they made up 16% of Blockbuster's revenue. 16%. Eliminating late fees meant cutting out 1/6 of your revenue. For a publicly traded company, that is not a strategy. That is self-sabotage. So Blockbuster passed, and for 4 more years it didn't matter. From 2000 to 2004, Blockbuster's revenue grew. Their stock price stayed strong. Every metric that mattered said the same thing. Netflix was a curiosity, not a threat. But something was happening that Blockbuster couldn't see. Netflix wasn't trying to beat Blockbuster at Blockbuster's game. They were playing a completely different game. Blockbuster measured success in same-store revenue growth. Did each store make more money this year than last year? If yes, everything was fine. Netflix measured success in something far more dangerous: customer satisfaction. Netflix realized something Blockbuster could not afford to see. Late fees were not a revenue stream. They were customer abuse. When you returned a movie 3 days late and Blockbuster charged you $12, you didn't think, "Oh, I should have returned it earlier." You thought, "I hate Blockbuster." Netflix eliminated late fees entirely. Keep it as long as you want. Watch it 100 times. No penalty. Then they introduced something even more powerful, the subscription model. Instead of paying $4 per rental, you paid $19 per month for unlimited rentals. The average Blockbuster customer spent $12 per month. Netflix customers spent $19. Netflix made more money per customer by charging less per rental. This is counterintuitive economics, and it was the key to everything. Then Netflix introduced Cinematch, a recommendation engine that analyzed your viewing history and told you what to watch next. And here is the critical detail. Cinematch wasn't just convenient, it was profitable. Blockbuster's top 100 titles made up 80% of their rentals. Netflix's top 100 titles made up only 30%. Netflix's recommendation engine pushed customers into the long tail, into older movies, into independent films, into documentaries. Titles that cost Netflix less to license. Titles that kept customers subscribed because they were always discovering something new. Netflix wasn't a rental machine. It was a discovery machine. Blockbuster finally responded in 2004. They launched Blockbuster Online, a DVD by mail service that competed directly with Netflix. And here's what almost nobody knows. It was good. Really good. Blockbuster Online reached 1 million subscribers faster than Netflix did. By 2006, they had 2 million subscribers. They offered something Netflix couldn't. You could return your online rental to any Blockbuster store and get a free in-store rental immediately. Total access, they called it. And customers loved it. Netflix's growth stalled. Blockbuster was fighting back. For the first time, Reed Hastings was genuinely worried. But Total Access had a fatal flaw. Every time a customer returned a DVD to a Blockbuster store and walked out with a free rental, Blockbuster's in-store revenue dropped. The free rental replaced a paid rental. Store managers hated the program. Franchisees revolted. Wall Street analysts pointed at declining same-store sales and panicked. Blockbuster's leadership faced an impossible choice: kill Total Access to protect store revenue and lose online subscribers to Netflix, or keep Total Access and watch your own stores cannibalize themselves. They chose to kill Total Access. They raised prices. They eliminated the free in-store exchange. Netflix's subscriber growth immediately resumed. But Total Access wasn't Blockbuster's only fatal decision. There were two more. In 2008, Blockbuster tried to buy Circuit City. They offered over $1 billion for a dying electronics retailer. The deal collapsed only because Blockbuster couldn't get financing. If it had gone through, Blockbuster would have bankrupted itself 2 years earlier. And then, the final blow. Blockbuster's CEO at the time, Jim Keyes, was asked in a 2008 interview about competition from Netflix and Redbox. He said, "Neither Redbox nor Netflix are even on the radar screen in terms of competition." In 2008, Netflix had 12 million subscribers, Redbox had 25,000 kiosks, and they were not even on the radar. 20 months later, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. The numbers tell a brutal story. In 2004, Blockbuster had 9,000 stores and $6 billion in revenue. In 2009, they closed 3,700 stores and lost $374 million. In 2010, Blockbuster filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with nearly $1 billion in debt. By 2013, the last 300 company-owned stores closed their doors. 50 licensees held on, operating independently. One by one, they shut down, until there was one. The Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon, a store that became a tourist attraction, a fossil preserved in the amber of nostalgia. People drive hours to visit it, to buy a t-shirt, to take photos in front of the blue and yellow awning. They're not visiting a video store, they're visiting a memory of who they were in 1998. And while Blockbuster was collapsing, Netflix was transforming. In 2007, they launched streaming. The DVD by mail business quietly continued, but now it was a sidecar. Streaming became the main engine. By 2011, Netflix had 23 million subscribers. By 2013, they released House of Cards, their first original series, and became a production studio. By 2020, Netflix had 200 million subscribers, a market cap approaching $300 billion. The company Blockbuster could have bought for $50 million in 2000 was now worth 6,000 times that. 50 million to 300 billion. That is not a defeat. That is an extinction-level event. What actually killed Blockbuster? Not Netflix, not streaming, not the internet. Blockbuster was killed by its own success. Blockbuster's business model was built on late fees and physical stores. Every store was a cash register that printed money. Every late fee was pure profit with zero cost. Why would you ever give that up? This is the innovator's dilemma, described by Clayton Christensen in 1997. Successful companies fail not because they make bad decisions. They fail because they make perfectly rational decisions based on their current business model. For Blockbuster, protecting store revenue was rational. For Blockbuster, maintaining late fees was rational. For Blockbuster, dismissing a small unprofitable mail-order startup was rational. Every decision they made was correct. From their perspective, given their incentives, given their shareholders, given their metrics, and every single one of those correct decisions led them straight into bankruptcy. Netflix didn't win because they were smarter. They won because their business model had no stores to protect, no late fees to defend, no quarterly earnings reports that depended on VHS rentals.